What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're talking about creativity. Yes, creativity is very important for so many people. Although, to be very honest, AI is much better at doing creative stuff these days than us. But we're still in the game. Yes, and while we're in the game, we want to be as creative as possible, right? Creativity determines how your business goes, how your products go, how your service goes, and so many other things. It's the life force, essentially, that is very helpful in any sort of endeavor. And so we'll talk about how you can have more of that, more creativity in this video. Are you ready? Let's go. In order to understand creativity a little better, I have this fantastic sand clock here. And the sand clock represents somewhat of an interesting dichotomy I've noticed in life, right? Where there's consumption and there's creativity. We need something to kind of come in, we need to experience things, and then we want to be creating things, right? And so the fun thing is, once you start experiencing things, right, you notice that there's more room and there's more things that you can create. However, many people do the following: they consume things all the time. So if you're one of those people who consumes things all the time and you never create anything, then it may feel a little bit like you're bloated, right? Like your mind is bloated, like you've accumulated a lot of knowledge, and somehow there's something waiting to be created, but you haven't really gotten into the habit of it. And some people create a lot of stuff, but they don't experience anything new. All right, and so if that's the case, you'll most likely notice that there are people who do a lot of videos or create a lot of content and stuff like that, but they actually don't have any interesting experiences to share. Yeah, and so in that moment, it can feel very uninspiring. Let's put it this way. And so it's important to notice this balance, right? How can you balance consumption and creativity at the same time, right? Consumption and creativity are decent model to use because it's essentially energy in and energy out, right? Creativity is taking something from the energy you have and making something in the world with that, right? And experience slash consumption is receiving energy from the outside and kind of filtering it through your system in a way. And so if you're able to kind of experience slash consume and then also create as a result of that, it creates this nice little cycle that really feels not only fulfilling but also sustainable. So if you'd like to be more creative, then this is your first exercise from this particular video. You want to look at how much am I consuming and how much am I creating. Now, this shouldn't necessarily be an exact time amount, right? But more of a feeling, right? So if you feel off balance, if you feel like, hey, it's been really difficult to, for example, be inspired, then there's a good chance that you haven't really had any inspiring experiences lately. And so what you want to tune into is to say, well, what do I want to do? Something new, what I experience that actually I can that can fill my tank, so to speak. And if you feel the other way around, if you feel like, hey, I actually have been consuming a lot, so I feel very inspired, but I haven't been able to create, then what you want to really look into is how can you create a habit of creating, right? Or an outlet of creating. And there's all kinds of different outlets of creating things, right? You can build something with your hands if that's something that's working. If it's an information that you want to process, then it can be some sort of journal or a newsletter or content videos like this, right? You can use any sort of form that you like the most in order to process and to create stuff based on what you're learning, what you're thinking. Right, and so it's more of like a balancing metric, right? So you will want to check in with yourself that anytime you feel uninspired or you feel like you haven't been creating for a while, then, uninspired or bloated, so to speak, then you can see, okay, which one do I have to do more of again so that the balance is back in action. And sometimes when we get to that point, we really ask ourselves, well, what do I create then, right? What would be great to create? Because sometimes we look at other people and we think, I want to create something like that. But the good news is you, my friend, just like everybody else, has this access to this really very creative energy within, right? And let's call it the intuitive intelligence, the in the moment intuitive intelligence, right? It's an intelligence that you kind of have actually, like this fire that you have burning within, and that fire might be very tiny. It could also be very expansive, and that fire actually informs anything you want to create or do any moment. And you can really tune into that, right? It's a little different than your thinking brain. So the intuition, right? The intuitive intelligence is more of a sensing. It's not really a thought pattern. It's not really an image. It's more of like, I'm sensing this is the important thing to do now. I sense like this could be a good way to do this. It's this kind of hard to speak about it, right? It's hard to say why it's important to you. It's hard to say why you feel so strongly about something. So this intuitive intelligence, you have access to it, right? And that intuitive intelligence can really inform what you create, right? If you listen to it. It's a little bit like a radio channel. Imagine you're listening to radio, and most of the time you're listening to the thinking, right? To the mind. That's kind of thinking and regurgitating thoughts from the past or from the future or from the present. And so in this case, you can change the radio channel to the intuitive intelligence. Now, it's not always easy to spot when you're in the right moment, but oftentimes when you really feel like, ooh, this is something interesting, and you feel very energized while you're creating something, that's often when the intuitive intelligence is anyway at play. What you need to understand is also that this intuitive intelligence, it actually doesn't help you with the past or the future, right? So if you're here and you're trying to say, well, let me figure out how to build a company in 10 years time and be super awesome and famous and whatever, then that may not exactly be as helpful. It will help you in the moment to create a vision for it, so that's great. But a plan, and then the one that you want to linearly follow every day of the next 10 years, that will not work, right? The reason is because the intuitive intelligence has a lot more data, right, to kind of take than your mind has. And your mind is literally the only data that your mind grabs is from your experiences, from your current surroundings, from your beliefs. And so it's somewhat limited in its kind of data set, right? The intuitive intelligence is a lot more plugged in, let's so to speak, right? And it has a lot more, data to draw from. And so sometimes it will feel like, you will sense like there's something important to do, and it will make no sense whatsoever. Yeah. And so I would love to invite you to just experiment with that a little bit to see how it is for you, right? So the experiment could look something like that. I would love to run my business with this intuitive intelligence for a good week, right? And so as often as possible, I will just listen in. I will listen within. I will see and try to sense what is next, what is happening. And sometimes it will work like this. It will come up for you, and you'll feel like, I think I want to message this person, and you have no idea why, right? And so you can just go with it, right? And just okay, let me just message this person, without any expectation of what happens in the future, what needs to happen in the future. You can try and run your business for just 1 week with this intuitive intelligence, right? Oftentimes, you will just run on autopilot, so you won't even notice it. But whenever you do notice it, try to kind of tune in back into what do you sense inside that you would love to create, for example. What do you feel really strongly about, and what would be cool? And so with those two experiments, I would love to send you off and let you experience a little more creativity, hopefully, right? The sand clock on the one way to balance consumption and creativity, and then the intuitive intelligence to bring up anything new or fresh or interesting that you'd be excited to create. And so if any of those work, do let me know in the comments, give me a like, and potentially send this to some of your friends who may need it.